Hey everyone, how are you doing today? Tonight we are making fresh drop biscuits from scratch and using one of our bags of beef stew that we made a few weeks back. Ignore my silliness there. Kiddo and I were having a funny face day and I just could not resist being a bit silly. If this is the first time we are meeting, welcome. My name is Jamie and I make videos related to cooking, cleaning, and home organization. This week I'm starting to nail down our plan for our No Spend February challenge at our house. So we will be organizing our freezers and pantry to get ready. Okay, who's ready for these biscuits? And I prefer, when I'm making these drop biscuits, to measure out the flour by weight rather than using a cup. So what I've done is I've gotten my scale out and I have put my bowl on it that I'm going to use and I've zeroed it. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 240 grams of flour, give or take. Ooh, right on the money with that one. 240. Okay. And then I'm going to put in my baking powder and my salt and whisk it around. This recipe is so simple and comes together so quickly. I already have my cast iron skillet preheating in the oven. On the recipe itself, it gives actual measurements so that if you don't have a scale or you don't want to use a scale, you certainly do not have to. The other thing I wanted to mention is I prefer to use aluminum-free baking powder. The reason being is because I have used aluminum baking powder with this before, and to me it gives it an odd taste. I ran out of aluminum free one time, and there's my oven. I ran out of aluminum free one time and I wound up getting just the regular kind in the white can that everybody loves, and it just didn't work as well. I also don't think I got as good of a rise with it. I don't know, that's just been my experience, so your mileage may vary. The next thing I'm going to do is add in my salt. And the full recipe for this is going to be down in the description box. It's just a recipe that I always use, although I will tell you that I am falling in love with this one recipe from Cherry Grove Farmhouse. Bryn has this amazing biscuit recipe, and I've made it a couple of times now, and it is super good. So go check her out because, yeah, her channel's awesome, but she has some really awesome recipes on there, so I like that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use my pastry cutter to do this. Probably use a whisk too, or something like that. I personally just don't want to dirty up any more dishes than I need to. And I'm making these biscuits to go with that beef stew that we made together a few weeks ago and put in the freezer. I just needed a quick meal tonight, and this was it. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my butter. I've actually had it in the chilling in the in the freezer for, I don't know, about 10 minutes or so. Oops, sorry, I did not mean to hit the camera. I'm going to slice up that butter and then toss it in here and incorporate it. I like using frozen butter because I have a little bit more leeway with cutting. Because you don't want your butter to get too terribly warm. In fact, you don't want it to get warm at all. You want it to still be cold and about pea-sized chunks when you put it into your oven, so that as it's cooking it releases steam and helps puff up your biscuits. So if you're ever wondering how come recipes call for cold butter and to just leave it chunked up, that's why. And the less you can touch the butter with your actual hands, because it will start warming it up, the better. Another reason why I use this particular bowl is I actually chill it down before I use it. so that everything stays cold while I'm putting this biscuit recipe, or really any recipe that calls for cold butter, together. I prefer this one. So from here, we all know I have a love-hate relationship with this because it just, I don't know, my hands slam down. You can easily use 2 forks as well. I am just going to use the butter, get it incorporated, and then I'm going to add in my milk. Now, I don't have any buttermilk this time. Usually I use buttermilk. I'm just going to use regular milk. I could have made buttermilk by souring my regular milk, but I'm going for easy today, and ain't nobody got time for that. Least of all me. Because today I'm just doing easy. We are back in our normal routine after the holidays, so we are homeschooling family, so I have homeschooling during the mornings, and then housework during the afternoons, plus errands, plus everything else. If you are so inclined, you can actually also either use a food processor to pulse this, or you can use your fingers to kind of incorporate the butter. Now, the problem with using your fingers is it's going to heat up the butter. So if you're going to use your fingers, definitely make sure you have frozen that butter to give yourself a little head start. I know my mom's going to watch this and she's going to be like, that's not how you use a pastry cutter. Guess what, Mama? It is. Well, okay, it's actually not, but it's how I use the pastry cutter. I have never gotten a good technique for pastry cutting, so this is just how I use it. All right, so you see how that's kind of crumbly there? Let me move. Get all the good stuff off of there. Now be careful doing this with your pastry cutter. Don't do it from the bottom side. You'll slice your finger off. At least don't rub your hands directly on the tines on the bottom. On the top, not nearly as sharp. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my milk, and I'm going to start with 3/4 cup milk. Again, your mileage may vary. You may need a little bit more depending on how dry your dough is. I'm usually somewhere between 3/4 and a cup. I don't usually need a full cup. Ooh, gotta turn that stew down. It is really piping back there. And I just want it on a low simmer. I don't actually want to cook it anymore. Just want it to warm through. This is kind of different for me. I'm used to usually just doing voiceovers. So actually talking while I'm doing this is different. I do rather like it. My husband has our kiddo occupied in another room playing a game so that I could get this done, because he decided that he wanted to play in the kitchen, and not usually the best while I'm trying to cook. Okay, I do need to add just a touch more milk. I'm not going to add a full 1/4 cup. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons and see how we do from there. Because we don't want this super runny. We do want, when we put it into the cast iron, to it's like I don't know if a good dough to describe it to. It's going to be lumpy, and it's going to be about this texture. I don't know if you can see. It's not super dry. It'll hold together when I scoop it. Now, I cook mine in a cast iron skillet. If you do not have a cast iron skillet, absolutely no worries. You can use a muffin tin, or you can just simply scoop them out on a baking sheet that's been covered with parchment paper, a Silpat mat, or I guess technically even you can just leave it straight on a baking sheet if you want. All right, let me go get that. Excuse me, let me go grab that pan. And this is where I have to be really careful, because that pan is going to be piping hot when I lay it down. And I mean hot. Oh, been preheating in an oven at 450 degrees. And then I am going to do the most fun thing ever. I'm going to make it sizzle. I love the sizzle. You want to drop a good drop of butter in there. And yes, I did just splatter butter everywhere. And then from there, what you want to do is just grab up a spoonful, about that much, and plop it in. Now these are going to start cooking as soon as they hit this skillet, so you want to work fairly fast. I'm using the smaller of my 2 cast iron skillets. If you want to double the recipe, I would recommend using a larger, but I believe this is my I want to say this is my 8-inch skillet. I'll leave a link in the description below for the skillet I use if you want to try your hand at cast iron, if you don't already have one. I always recommend cast iron to everybody. I love cast iron skillets. Ooh, almost burned my hand on that cast iron skillet though. That hand got a bit too close. And then I like to make one big one here in the middle. My husband usually eats it the next morning for breakfast. So I usually try and make a little bit bigger one for him to use as a breakfast sandwich. These are going to be more like dinner roll size. Okay, from there we're going to put this back in the oven and we are going to cook it for about 20 minutes. And I'll see you then. Okay, it has been about 20 minutes. Actually, it was about 19 and a half. And our biscuits are ready. Don't those look, by the way, the pan is still hot. Don't those look really delicious? Now, what I like to do from here is, because, I mean, it's like a Paula Deen thing. You can never have too much butter. But I like to just brush the tops of these with butter. And we're going to pull them out of the pan pretty quickly because they are continuing to cook. Now we like to cook it in the cast iron and in butter, because we like those crispier bottoms. See, there's that big biscuit that I made my husband. He'll be so excited. Grab a plate to get these out. You scoot over that way. Now, here's the trick. Don't burn yourself. That's the trick. Invariably, I burn myself at least once getting these out because I am not super careful, but I'm going to attempt to be super careful today. They're not sticking. They're just, you know, I used a smaller pan, so they're a little harder to get out. Whoop. But look at those nice golden brown bottoms. They are crispy, they are delicious, and they are fantastic. What? And they will be perfect with the beef stew for dinner tonight. Sorry, that was my kiddo. He's helping Dad get the dog out to go play outside for a little bit. She's got some beanie weenies in her. You know what? That one I might put back in. No, that's good. That one's good. At first I thought that one might not be done, but it is. Sometimes on the bigger ones it takes a little bit longer, of course, because a little bit bigger to cook. And how does that look for that great plate of drop biscuits? And look, it really didn't take too much time at all. Maybe 10 minutes to put it together, 20 minutes to cook. We're all good. If you have enjoyed this video, please, oh, you know what I just did? Did you see what I did? Oh my gosh, I used the wrong side. See, I told you I will burn myself with this thing. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and give it a thumbs up, and we will see you next time. Thank you.